And I think that's what they're afraid of.
Incredible. You're saying Navy SEALs and Ed Asner, former head of the Screen Actors Guild and hundreds of films, TV shows, one of the most famous living actors out there, an icon who doesn't make stuff up, is saying he's talking to Navy SEALs who say not only is the war coming, but that a false flag or staged terror attack as a provocation is coming. And they're saying they have intel on this? This is incredible news, Ed.
Well, I can't divulge, and I can't go further than what I've said. They've alerted me, and I've tried to help in whatever way I can, but there's only so much I can do, and only so much I will stick my neck out.
No, I understand. Now, remember Cheney, Cy Hirsch exposed this, and Ray McGovern, former CIA analyst, told us at the time, but you couldn't get into sources. But Cy Hirsch reported, as you know, after Cheney left office 3 years ago, that 2 years before that, 5 years ago, Cheney ordered the SEALs to paint up blue boats like the Iranian Navy boats, and to stage an attack on a destroyer. And we know that Admiral Fallon at the time said no. That's why he later resigned. But we've already come that close before, so I guess that's probably why the SEALs know about stuff like this. Did they say anything about that?
No, they did not. But I'm sure they know about it. If I were to question them further, and I haven't.
Wow. Anything else you can tell us about the SEALs reaching out to you?
Well, I would, off air, give you the name of the gentleman I talked to.
Oh, wow. I don't. Okay, well, the show ends here in a few minutes, and we'll talk off air, Ed. Just amazing. Or perhaps I should get you back on, too. I know that you were going to be on and then got tied up, and we could talk forever about these subjects. Doesn't it feel like you lived through World War II? I wasn't around then. But doesn't it feel like that calm before the storm as all these armies are lining up and they're putting the fleet out there menacing China, and the Chinese president saying, prepare for war with the U.S.? I went back and looked at history. I've never seen times that a Chinese president was saying prepare for war with the U.S. The Russians are saying don't go into Syria and threatening back and putting troops in. I mean, this is crazy.
Well, was it yesterday's New York Times, or was it today's? Your lead article on the right of the commander of the SEALs calling for greater widespread operations by the SEALs throughout the world. Greater budgeting, greater activity by the SEALs in doing covert operations. And this is all part of it, creating, instead of drones, they would use SEALs to create the demolition of individuals, such as the auto accident that took care of your the Polish engineer, or whatever he was, who commented on 9/11.
Yeah, Danny Jowenko.
Yeah.
By the way, they say it was very suspicious how he died. I actually pulled it back up. It was a few months ago. Just out of nowhere, his car was actually taken control of and veered off into a tree, but the dog was okay. And then there was a bunch of suspicious stuff around it, just like with Princess Diana and her killing. But what's incredible about this, she even wrote a letter saying, if I'm killed, Charles says he's going to kill me in a fake auto accident. She's killed that way. The whole thing's suspicious, but the mainstream media calls it a conspiracy theory, Ed.
Yeah, well, they dismiss all of us that way. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to wonderful, intelligent, certainly not right-wing reactionaries, and brought up the subject of 9/11. And they look at me goggle-eyed. They remind me of the plastic dogs in the back of cars that they have sitting there, bobbing their heads and looking at me with amazement, little plastic dogs. And they think I'm out of my goddamn mind. But I realize that the American people, for the most part, no matter how intelligent they are, don't want to have the myth of Santa Claus, America, destroyed by hearing such stories. They either don't want the myth destroyed, or they shake in fear that they don't want to be complicit in harboring such thoughts.
Well, that was my next question. It's funny you bring that up. I've studied other empires' history, corruption, and the corruptors know that once they get things to a certain point, once they sell a big enough lie and people buy into it, they will defend the corrupt system in fears of bringing it down. But at a certain point, you've got to bring it all down because the system itself is threatening to destroy all life on this planet.
Exactly. But how do you achieve unity in people in demanding redress to these crimes in our name? In our name, supposedly to maintain our wonderful, comfortable way of living. That's the final reason, the final excuse, the raison d'etre. You don't question authority. Well, if we don't start questioning authority, as you do, as I do in my little way, we don't start questioning, then authority will finally have us sealed up in such a bottle we couldn't get out of if we scream bloody murder.
You're right, Ed Asner. We've only got 4 or 5 minutes left. We're going to end the official broadcast, and I'll say bye to you and get that contact, if it's okay with you,
sure.
For that seal, because we do need to do everything we can right now to try to turn this around. And I think we can do it. I mean, we stopped Cheney the last time he wanted to do that. He tried to start a war with the Russians back in 2008. We've got to try as hard as we can, because when you've got all the top brass and even the head of the Mossad being fired a year ago for saying to Netanyahu, don't attack Iran, it's going to be a catastrophe. These politicians have just become so divorced from reality. You know, looking at history, Ed, and of course you know better than I, before it was politicians worried about generals trying to start wars because they wanted to fight wars and be heroes. But now it's generals stopping the crazy politicians from wars who have no idea what they're about to get us into. I mean, that's what's scary, Ed, is that the generals and military across the board are saying, do not start this. Russia and China are going to get involved.
Well, a typical example would be Hitler. Hitler, who insisted that his moves against the various states of Europe were always questioned and tried to be soft-pedaled, slowed by his generals. But his orders ran amok, and World War II was launched by his hubris, and the generals had to follow. And the same thing is occurring here. People who aren't generals are, and when the generals complain, they get replaced. They did this in Iraq a couple of times, if you'll recall. Shinseki was one, I think, and
a bunch of them.
And the Latin American was another. They got rid of them.
Fallon, Mullen, the last 2 Joint Chiefs of Staff, have said don't do this.
Yeah. So we're in the same pickle, and unless somebody somehow scares the crap out of Congress to get them to change their march to oblivion, that's what we're faced with here.
Your SEAL contact, what I've been told is it's an October surprise, but it could happen in June, July, August, September.
Yeah. And of course, we won't be directly involved. They keep the Israelis keep appearing as the 600-pound gorilla, and I don't know how you're going to control them.
Well, from my military contacts and what's now been admitted, that's all part of a staged event to act like the U.S. is reluctant. But the people running the U.S. are going to have Israel as basically the fire starter, and then the United States and NATO are going to come in with both feet.
Yeah. NATO, another arm of the United States.
I tell you, Ed Asner, it is just incredible. And you're right, we've got to expose 9/11 because it's the lie that all of this is based on, including TSA sticking their hands down people's pants.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to get used to that. I love to go to the airport.
Yeah, just have all of them look like Marilyn Monroe. Could you hire some hot blondes?
Yeah. God. If only.
Oh, God bless you, Ed Asner. I'm going to say bye to you here at the break, and hopefully we'll get you back up sooner rather than later, because I'd love to have you on and take some calls. But I'll talk. Well, that's wonderful, sir. All right, folks, that's it for this transmission. See you back tonight, 7 o'clock for InfoWars Nightly News, God willing.
Everything we said came true. Everything we